So we got a job.
We got a job.
We
So-
got a job.
We've been a little quiet lately, and it's not because we don't have ideas.
Yeah, it's not that we haven't really been trying to produce content. Actually, in reality, we probably have produced the most content in our endeavor as people who grow. But it's specifically been for a project. And, we can't really talk about first, who the people are, or our clients. Can't really talk about much about the project in details just because of, confidentiality, and we do respect the business tremendously. But we do want to talk about the process, because I think the process has, I don't know about you, Frank, but it's kind of honed in all of the skills that I've developed in my business. And now, since working with you, and of course Tiffany, man, this is really proven to be something special. And yet I find I have to quote something that Layla Hormozi said one time. It's not imposter syndrome. It's inexperience.
Mm-hmm.
It's not till when you actually go through the experience that you realize, oh, I'm actually deficient here, or I need to acquire this skill in order to produce this result. And wow, talk about doing that in this time that, we've now been able to produce something pretty awesome.
Yeah. Maybe to set the context, what is discovery, right? So typically you hear discovery as the beginning starting point of you working with any company or any individual.
Yeah.
And yeah, as the word says it, your goal is exploration. It's really to get a sense of where they're coming from, what they need, where their unmet desires, pain points, challenges, and frustrations meet, say, something like a possible solution. So what it was for us, right, it was about 5 meetings, ranging, actually probably more, but ranging anywhere from an hour to, I think, even 2.5 hours, 3 hours that we spent a few times asking questions, exploring, investigating, allowing different elements to show up so that we could get a better understanding and grasp of the business. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And thinking about those meetings, going back to kind of how each meeting, each discovery meeting revealed, I would say, something about the customer, something about the client that we were so foreign to, because we did have a certain concept. And it's funny because, again, I can only speak from my business. When I think about my business to a certain degree has a very specific tone, very specific customer needs, and of course, how we solve their problems.
Yeah.
And I immediately thought, oh, it's copy and paste. I'm gonna be able to easily understand their pain points, their problems, and I'm gonna solve them in a way that I would solve my business. And that was just not the case. It surprised me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's a completely foreign process. We think everyone thinks like we do, right? And there's an inherent bias where we believe, well, you just do this, easy, right? Simple. Until you take the time to explore, right? And so in a sense, we became more like partners for that time period where we're able to...
I love that, yeah.
To really like partner with them. And I remember hearing this, like we get to do two things, right? We get to go into the cave and explore together, but we also get to mirror, right? So you're both the cave spelunker where you're diving deep, but you're also showing with a mirror back to them, hey, this is what you're seeing that you might not be aware you're seeing. And it's that process of discovery that leads to better understandings, insights that help the business grow inevitably, but also you as a person to feel like, you know what, there's a lot of good things I'm doing, and then there's a lot of opportunities for me to improve on. Yeah. In an unlimited world where money was no limit, we would do all these fixes all at once. But since we can't do that, you need that partner or that trusted advisor to come in and help see and guide you through the maze of all these different options into what's a clear and step-by-step plan.
Yeah, that makes complete sense, because if, probably someone's listening and they're saying, 5 meetings, good grief, why did it take 5 specific actually more than 5, you're right.
Yeah.
It took more than 5 specific sessions just to be able to understand this discovery process, to not only know what the client's background, and it was a lot of that. It was just like, where are you guys from? What, is this something that was, did you guys stumble upon this? Is this generational? Those conversations, as I replayed them in my mind, I think to a certain degree, I understood now how vital those conversations were, in the hours that we took to get them done. To most people, that could probably seem like a waste of time, but I think those people are in that vicious circle where they're not getting their problem solved just because they're not able to hone in and understand exactly how they're going to solve their customer's problem, and obviously how they need to communicate that.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. The understanding of the customer's problem solves one of the big issues we see all across, and that's this mindset of being transactional. I see you once, you're done, right? Like, here's your money, take my product, right? That works if you're buying toilet paper, right? Or you're buying something that is a commodity.
Sure.
But many of us, especially if you're listening to this and you've stayed up and you're following up until now, you're looking at a way of getting paid for your thinking, getting paid for the value that you can bring to the table.
Yeah.
And I know at the beginning, right, we were kind of hesitant if we should charge more, charge less. We decided to go with a higher price there on the spot. And even then, now looking back, I feel we undercharged.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because you have to start somewhere. But the beauty of it is we did get paid to have conversations. This is, I think, the dream, right? To be able to get paid at a high value for the ability to listen to someone and reflect back insights of your own experience and knowledge.
Yeah. And the reason why that is such a high-ticketed process, a high-ticketed, product, it's because we can only quantify, we can only implement if someone is actually giving us honest feedback, because we have a perception of ourselves. I know a lot of people probably think like, oh, I know me. And yeah, that's great, but then how are you perceived by others?
Yeah.
So you could be the most confident, the most, strong-willed, or the most determined and driven person, yet outside you could be showing these red flags or certain signals, giving off signals that to a certain degree some customers might think, or some people might think like, oh, this person's not confident at all.
Yeah.
So now, Frank, from the discovery process, what was something that you learned from that process that perhaps maybe you didn't necessarily think you were going to come across, or maybe say like, oh, I'm going to do this A, B, and C process. Oh no, wait a minute, scratch that. I should have done it this way.
Yeah. Thankfully, or because I've done it before, I didn't come in with a mindset of trying to figure out. And it just reconfirmed that, allowing it to surface. What I did understand or realize is the dynamic will change depending on who's on the listening side of things.
Yeah.
So what I kind of uncovered was there's different ways of delivering the questions.
Yeah.
If you're talking to someone who's very bottom line, show me the numbers, your approach is very different than someone who's more open to storytelling and maybe just having a conversation back and forth. So yeah, I think what did surprise me was the rich history that was present in talking with the company, right? And also, like, again, the presuppositions I had about how the audience was to what the reality was. Given the industry, I was expecting maybe a more different kind of person.
Yeah.
But then once you get the behind the scenes real raw look, then you realize, oh wow, the customer isn't who I thought it was. That surprised me.
Yeah.
And I think it always does, because there's just no way of knowing.
Yeah.
But also, it was incredible to see the rich kind of knowledge storehouse already in our client's mind. So his ability to just know so much and care so deeply, that it just gets me thinking to all of us, right? Like every business owner that's been in business and successful and established knows so much that's just waiting for someone to come and explore it, right? To like discover it, get it out of your head and into a medium that you can actually see. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I know when we talked about this, or when we talk about the process, I really still want to stay within the discovery space because there was so much more to the process that we ended up doing, and that'll be content for other videos.
Yeah.
But I like how when you had mentioned that you learned something so organic about the client through those conversations that it just helped you to realize and shift. And like you had said, it just, you didn't come in with a cookie cutter approach, which is always really good. I think that just speaks to people. I'm a very much a tech person, so I feel like sometimes I can solve my clients or my customers' problems with tech, but that's not that's not what they really want. They care more about the conversation. They care more about being listened and heard. And they almost kind of have the solutions already in their mind, that all you really need to do is just listen to them and just simply say, oh, well, you actually want this. And they're like, yes, you're right. That's what I want. But they've already had it in their mind. They just needed to have communicated that. The discovery foundation process conversations made that possible.
That's exactly it. An analogy that comes to mind is what you have, like a cup.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on what level of cup is it filled at. So a lot of what we're doing, and all of us applying this lesson, whenever you're talking to a potential customer or client or someone even listening to you, it's you're educating. And educating not in the sense of like I'm talking down to you, but educating from the sense of, hey, did you know this? Or have you ever looked at this? And it's in the specifics that you're able to present information that leads to transformation, which then leads to the revelation for them, right? So it's like, that aha moment, like, oh yeah, I wanted that all along. Well, we got there by a series of questions, answers that led them to this end output, right? Mm-hmm.
I love that idea that the end output, it takes time to get there. To be able to give someone that time is so much its weight worth in gold. I know this is kind of like a sidestep, but I have a point in it. I just finished reading James Clear's Atomic Habits.
Yeah, great book.
And so I got to thinking, I was just like, one of the things, the way that book concluded was it had a really profound impact in me, because it talked about how doing the very mundane, boring stuff on a daily basis, on a continuous basis, was what would take me to whatever success I wanted.
Yeah.
And that hit me like a ton of bricks, because I felt to a certain degree, especially going into the foundation process, it's like we're gonna take away 5 hours or so from this person. I mean, how interesting we're gonna be able to make these conversations.
Yeah.
So that they're going to be engaged and they're going to want to give us, information so that way we can help them with their situation. But as I listened to it, because it was an audio version of the book, as I listened to that part of the book, I thought, oh my gosh, it is only by doing the boring stuff. It is only by having those mundane, long conversations, or perhaps maybe just taking the time of being incremental and saying, let's think this, let's say this, what about this, what about that? And did we end up coming out with something, or I should say creating something, that was perfect for the customer's needs? And so it just kind of helped. It just helped me to appreciate that whatever reps I'm putting in, whatever I feel is that mundane, that slow burn in the work that I'm doing, that's actually is what will make me great in my craft, in our craft.
Definitely.
Of helping our clients and our customers.
Thank you for sharing that, because you ever hear this idea that the beginner, I think I heard this, it might have been a Hormozy thing, right? Where he said there was a beginner who went to a master and said, hey, I would like to be an expert at what you do, right? And he's like, okay, I'm going to go fast, I'm going to train, do all this thing. How long will it take me? Well, before that, he had told them, well, how long does it take? Oh, it takes 10 years, for example. Mm-hmm. But he says, but what if I do it fast and I can do all these things and I'm really good at it and all this? He says, well, in that case, it'll take you 20 years. Yeah. So that sense of wanting to rush and go super fast, that you cut all corners and you just jump to the end, that actually slows you down. Yeah. It's in the mundane, in the detailed, in the questions that are so obvious where you find the most gems. Because again, they're ignored because familiarity breeds contempt. And when it's easily available, then you think, well, everybody knows this. No, they don't. If they did, then we'd all be the same. And that's not the case.
Yeah. That also reminds me of the African proverb: if you want to go far, go fast. Or, I'm sorry, if you want to go, what is it? If you want to go fast, go alone.
Yeah.
If you want to go far, go together.
I've heard that proverb like 5 times in the last 4 days.
Yeah, so mine too. Yeah, yeah.
Love it.
A friend of mine actually quoted it this weekend in an event. And,
same.
and so the point that I'm trying to get at is just, you almost need to think in terms of like, this is a process. Not so much that the process is important, but the person is important.
Yeah.
So give them that time necessary so that the process can benefit that person. I know that's so cliche to say it, and I almost feel like, I feel like, gosh, this is just really simple. Sometimes maybe I feel like our viewers are just like, man, these guys are just blowing smoke. But yeah, I really do. But I only wish that we could have them here sit down with us and we gave them that same treatment, that we took the time to talk about and think about all of the different things that make up who they are as a person and their business, and just help them to get there. I think that's really what this experience with this first job that we've acquired. I was just so ready and so willing to help this client that I wanted to do everything for them.
Yeah.
But again, it was going to take time. And we knew he was eager, right?
Oh, yeah. There was like, we wanted this yesterday.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We wanted this yesterday. And it's just like, okay. All right. Well.
And so it's true, right? Like,
yeah.
And at that sense, like, I think the lesson learned is be okay with you having a process and a system.
Yes.
Like, don't underestimate your own knowledge and expertise when it comes to your ability to deliver on the solutions you understand. It's not every day that someone builds a website, whereas in our case, we've built more websites before. We understand the process. It's something that we're actively thinking about.
Yeah.
Selling, marketing, right? These are things that you could spend years and years trying to figure out on your own. But when you are asked or called to step up and do a job, do it to the best of your ability. Which leads to another lesson learned, and that was we prepared well for these. In a sense of, we did not come in and wing it. There was a level of questions and intentionality, and then listening to what was being said during the conversations to be fully present.
Mind mapping,
a lot of mind mapping, a lot of taking the time to really make sense and connecting of what was being shared. And also years and years of training our ability to communicate, which is one of the themes that we talk about here at People Who Grow. Communicate and inquire.
Yeah.
So what questions were we asking, the level of specificity, and even asking clarifying and guiding questions to help reach that aha, or like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
So it's a process in itself, not to be underestimated, this ability to communicate what you're about to say.
Yeah. And the product in itself was not a website. Let's really make that clear for everyone who's watching. We don't build websites. And that's not what we do. What we do is we help people how to think. We help people how to communicate. We help people how to grow, whether that's in their business or in whatever facet of their public speaking. That to me I think that product to me is much more enticing than a website. Anybody can build a website. And there's a lot of cruddy websites out there, let's be honest. But that's not what we did here. What we did was actually lay this beautiful structure of a road.
Totally.
Where now this company is going to, they were stuck in the past, right?
Yeah.
They were not moving, in fact.
Yeah.
But now we've built like this bridge for them, and they're like, okay, this is where you guys can go, or this is.
Yeah, this is the future, right?
This is the future. There you go.
And in a way, what's credit to them, because kind of connected to what we do, which is help you think, it's also help you strategize. So the strategy and the tactics, right? They both have their place. An output of our conversation might be a website, might be social media channels, might be like a conversation.
Or a video.
Or a video, right? Or like, in the sense we're helping them build a platform.
Yeah.
But what we sold and what we got hired to do was the strategy,
Yeah.
which is the defining and the thinking process, which for many, it's hard to wrap their hands around because it's not a tangible.
Yeah.
But let me tell you this, like the strongest efforts that we can deliver is the intangible, which is the thinking behind your way of being.
Yeah.
And that's what we were doing. Really getting clear on like, okay, what are your business practices? How does this influence the persona that you're working with? In a sense, what are the journey steps that someone would take from unknown stranger to, hey, I'm doing business with you and I'm a lifetime customer? Guiding someone through that series of steps from nothing to I'm your customer, that's the thinking.
Yeah.
And there needs to be a scaffolding, another way of saying this, a way of structuring this conversation so that you can get to these insights. And it changes because it's very dynamic, it's very individualized. You never know what the next person you're talking to is going to say out of their mouth.
Yeah.
But when you've got a system that helps you to think, then it doesn't matter what comes your way. You can always sort through it because you know where you're going. And that's the certainty that comes from you being clear on your own thinking. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I appreciate how, you saying that right there kind of remind me in one of the conversations that actually several of the conversations that we had, we utilized the question, help me to understand what that means.
Mm-hmm.
I'm new. I'm a newbie. I'm new in this industry that you're in. Explain that to me.
Yeah.
Tell me what that means. I felt that was such a good tool because by no means were we going to be able to extract what our client was wanting to accomplish unless they themselves know what they're doing. It's just like, okay, it's like telling me. It's like when you have a student, when you're teaching a class and the student, you tell the student, you understand? And they're like, yes. And then you're like, okay, you move on. No, do you understand? Yes. Explain it to me.
Yeah.
I would say that was almost a pivoting point
Mm-hmm.
in several conversations that we had with our client, that I got the thing is just like, oh man, that was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because this is what you think you know, and then what you can explain. And there's a gap.
Oh yeah.
And it's in that gap that there's a lot of opportunity, both for you to understand and get clear, and also for the people buying from you, because now they're also more clear. So it goes back to this, the work you're doing behind the scenes oftentimes doesn't get rewarded. The time you're taking to learn, the time you're taking to improve your communication skills, the time you're taking to think, to make notes, all these things, right?
To set up these lights.
All these lights, like all this stuff,
Yeah.
like what's the point of speaking, right, to an empty audience? So you think. But in reality, you're also improving your own skill set.
Yeah.
It's work that has a dedicated focus, that the more experience you get, the more you do, right? But you can only get experience by doing, right? So it's this, we were talking about this earlier, right? Just the doing part.
Yeah.
Have conversations with people. The more you can talk about them, the more you can trust in that expertise that you're building, whether that's at a beginner level or at advanced level, it's besides the question. You're an expert when you can communicate concisely, effectively, and help people bridge that gap. And that gap is what we call value, right?
Yeah.
Deliver value by answering questions, providing a direction, providing an intentionality that only you bring to the table. And that's what we do, right? The growth process is really about deciding and determining, hey, I'm here to create.
Yeah.
And to create means to add value, to make someone's life easier, to solve a problem, remove an obstacle, give them a direction that they could not have seen had you not spoken with them. To make the world a better place because you were there. And that's only possible when you're able to have conversations. Because out of those conversations, now you've planted the seeds that get nurtured and grow, and from there, all the fruits you want will come out of. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I think what Frank did right there was exactly one of those parts of the process that we talk about a lot in this show, which was the wormhole. It just like, it got us through. Yeah, it transcended us, right? It's just like we're going through this thing, and then there was this moment where now we're through the wormhole, just like right now, which is basically where we're at right now. We're in the wormhole. But what you said right there just has so much weight, because in the end, we weren't trying to assume that we knew everything, that we were going to solve everything. We weren't going to assume anything like that. But the one thing we were going to do is do what we do best. We were going to communicate to give that person the opportunity, to give the client the opportunity to figure out what exactly they wanted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's awesome.
And I think here's a great opportunity to define what it means to be an expert, because perhaps what you referred to earlier, this imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I'm not ready enough. It's not good enough. It could be a lot better. A lot of that goes out the window when you have a date and you have a person that you have to deliver to. It is what it is. You're going to show up as you're going to show up. Trust in that. And also, redefine the sense of what it means to be an expert.
Yeah.
An expert is not a know-it-all. There is a lot of opportunities and a lot of things we don't know. But the expert has the humility to understand I can always ask questions and I can always gain more information. And it's trusting in that ability to find out what you need to know, to have the systems that can collect that knowledge and then enable you to have what you need as a repository to use. That is what the transformation happens. So you might not have the answer, but you have the humility to say, it's okay, tell me more, explain it to me, like what we were able to do with our client.
Yeah.
And when you come out from that vantage point, then it's really a partnership where you're not the subject matter expert, but you can help experts get known and get to their even clearer understanding by you having the conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that's left said is that if you're interested in this process, if you're interested in perhaps maybe having a discovery phone call, you can always check the links down below.
Mm-hmm.
Frank and I are accessible. We're available. In fact, we want to help as many people as possible. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're here for.
100%. You can't see the obstacles in your face when you're in them. Or what was that other saying? Like, you can't see the frame when you're inside of it.
Yeah.
So what a discovery call helps you to do is see or get a perspective from an outsider. And we do this for free, right? Because we like to just have conversations.
Yeah.
What we do, this is natural. We're not we're not trying to present something we're not doing
Right.
actively ourselves.
Right.
And that comes in the form of having conversations where we're constantly bouncing ideas off one another. Hey, what do you think about this? Hey, what do you think about that? But also guiding it with a determined output. And that's what you ultimately can get with a discovery call.
Yeah. So if you're interested, link down below. Thanks for watching.